Hey, this is Jared. I'm here to give an instruction manual on the HexBoard. Let me first fix that. Thank you very much. All right, so you got your new HexBoard. Amazing. How do you use it? That's a great question. Thank you for asking. Let's go ahead and start with the hardware. So you have your playable keys here in the center. You have your option keys on the side. I'll explain those in a little bit, but I want to start with some of the inputs and outputs. So over here we have USB-C in the center, and then let's see, on this side you have your headphone jack. That is where you can plug in your headphones. Wow. You have a TRS MIDI port over on this side. So if yours is unlabeled, that is what those are. So MIDI up here, headphones right here. Those are what you have there. So let's go ahead and set this down. Oh wait, one more thing. It's hidden on the back. You have your programming button. If you have version 1.1, the programming button is tucked next to the USB port here, but on this model I had to hide it back here to keep things compact. So if you need to get into programming mode, if you have a bad firmware uploaded to it, you can recover it. You have to use a paper clip to hold down this button while plugging it into your computer, then it will show up as a flash drive. You can drag a good firmware onto it. Anyway, that is the start there. So let's go ahead and plug it in and start setting it up with some software. So when you first turn it on, it is defaulted to Wiki-Hayden layout, which has this set up. So let's go ahead and get an instrument loaded, so that way we can actually hear some sounds out of it. Let's do something real simple, okay? So in here you have whole steps going that direction, and then you have them offset. So then if you have this, that's a fifth. So anything like that is a fifth. All right, so that's that layout. You can use it for a lot of different things. It's a lot of fun to play, and you can span a wide range with one hand quite easily. I really enjoy that, and it's the default for this because I think it's the best layout for this particular set of hexagons. But there are some other layouts that are a lot of fun to use still. So harmonic table was the one that I also optimized this for. So harmonic table and the Wiki-Hayden layouts were the ones that I originally built this for. But the harmonic table, it's laid out this way. When the screen turns like this, it means that you need to rotate the board to match. So this one you have your semitones that way. You have major thirds up this way, minor thirds up that way, and fifths directly above. So from there you can make chords and things like that. It's quite fun. So anyway, there's a lot of different layouts, but you can go ahead and play with them yourself. If you want to learn more about them, go ahead and look them up online. These are some really neat layouts invented by people quite a long time ago. So a lot of neat history behind it, and also just a lot of fun music theory stuff to just kind of explore. And you don't even have to really know music theory. It just turns playing music into a game of shapes and patterns. So I really enjoy that about this. I'm going to set it back to Wiki-Hayden, get us back here, and we'll start playing around with some of the other things. So in here you also have scales. So if you want to highlight a scale, you want to say get a Phrygian scale, select that, and then it kind of mutes the colors of the keys that are not in the scale. And if you want to, you can play out of the scale. But say you want to only play in the scale, you go to scale lock and you set it on, and now you cannot play anything outside of the scale. And as you see, the red, I did not previously explain, is your root note in the rainbow color mode. So we can select a different one. Say I want to do a harmonic minor. Here we go. Things like that are a lot of fun to find. And if you want to change what key you're in, you go up here. C is default, but you go, I want to change it to, let's say E. Now your red has been shifted over to the E. All right, let's go ahead and turn off scale lock, and we'll turn off the scale. So select none. There we go, we are back here. Now, the next thing I want to show you is control wheels. So on the side, these are virtual control wheels. So right here, you have your velocity. So you can set it low, medium, high, and it moves at a certain speed from low to high. So there we go. You can go ahead and change the speed that these move on here. So if I go to velocity wheel and I set it to instant, when I set low, it'll instantly be 0 velocity, or and if you press 2 buttons, it selects the value between the 2 buttons. Anyway, so you can set it fast or you can set it way too slow. You can do that with all of these buttons on the side. So these buttons here, you also have a mod wheel. So this is what this one is right now. You can tell because it's blue and it can go up. So I don't have any modulation set on my current instrument, but you can apply that to an instrument to make it do something. Great question. Do I have anything that... Nah, I don't have anything good. Oh well, whatever. We'll do that later. I mean, you can figure that out on your own. You know what modulation is. If you don't, look it up. It's good to know. Okay, next thing is pitch bend wheel, PB wheel. So that one, if you don't have your pitch bend, you press this white button, and now your modulation has switched to pitch bend. So let's go ahead and turn up the velocity. So you can do a pitch bend like that. So if you want to do a half pitch bend, you go ahead and press both of these buttons at the same time. And if you want a whole pitch bend, you just press the top one. Now the speed of it again is controlled by this menu, so it's set to medium by default. But if you wanted to go instant, you can do that, or you can make it extra slow. So there you go. Let's go ahead and set that back to medium. All right. Next on our menu, we have color options. So in here, rainbow is our default color pattern. Oh, and I just remembered. I forgot to set this back to C. All right. So go to color options. Rainbow's the default color mode, but you can set it to tiered, which has a different layout of like white and black keys, with your root note being purple, fifth being blue. And then let's go ahead and change, or alt, which is based off of kite colors, which is a really interesting theory, but it's just, I can't think of how to describe it. You'll have to look it up. But essentially, the colors depend on how the notes sound in relationship to the root note. The blue ones don't sound great. The red one sounds especially dissonant. Anyway, that's fun to play around with, and this actually works for all the different tunings, which I'll get into in a second, okay? So let's go ahead to back to rainbow, and we'll set the brightness, which on this hardware it's defaulted to dim because my goodness, it uses so much power. So let's go ahead and set it to dimmer. You can have it, quite dim for when you don't want things to be too bright. You could set it normal. That's very bright, or high, or if you have a lot of power on your device, you can set it to the sun. This can cause it to crash if you don't have enough power on the device you're plugged into. I will warn you about that because it could draw too much power and cause the HexBoard to crash. It's fine, it'll restart. But yeah, if it freezes up like that, you just unplug it, replug it in, you'll be fine. Next, we're going to talk about animation. So animation is where the fun starts. So we go to this, and we can select things like, first off, you have none, which is just brightening up the button you're pressing. The next one you can select is octave. So that is the same note and all the octaves gets lit up. It can be especially useful in other layouts, such as harmonic table, because then you can get an idea of where other chords could play, and things like that. Let's go ahead and set this back and go to color options again. So that's your octave animation. Next one is by note. So this one can be really helpful in layouts that have a lot of duplicate notes across them. But you see here, it's the same as none until you get to this edge. And then you can see this shows where the notes are the same. This is really useful when you're trying to play things with two hands, more complex melodies, and you're trying to continue from one side to the other. It can help make things more seamless. The next thing is star, which shoots out in 6 directions from the center. The next one is splash, which makes a ring out from the center. And this one is orbit, which gives you 2 things circling around a center point. And then you have beams. This one is fun because it shoots out, straight across the button you're pressing, and then the next time you press it, it randomly picks from one of the 2 directions it didn't last go. So you end up getting kind of chaotic thing coming out of there. So that's a lot of fun there. Then you have R splash, which is splash but in reverse. And then you also have R star, which is star in reverse. That is all your animations. Next thing in here, we have synth options. So I'm going to mute my computer sound and get you this thing loaded up. So this actually has a built-in sound generator. It's very rudimentary, but if you just want to plug this into a portable battery pack and practice, without having to load up your whole computer and everything, really handy. So you can go to synth mode and turn it on. There's different modes. Mono, which only lets you play 1 note at a time, and arpeggio, which lets you play only 1 note at a time, but it very quickly cycles through all the notes being pressed. So those are the loudest because they're only playing 1 note at a time. The last mode, poly, turns down the volume on everything so that you can play more than 1 note actually at a time. So if you need it loud as possible, set it to mono or arpeggio, but poly lets you play up to 8 notes at the same time on here. This is especially useful when you have headphones plugged into the headphone jack. Again, headphone jack is down here, MIDI jack is up here. Headphone, MIDI. Keep that in mind. And you can output to both the headphones and the built-in little buzzer, or you can set it to the headphone jack only or the buzzer only. So those options are there under synth output. All right, the next thing I wanted to show you is waveform. So currently it's set to hybrid. Hybrid means that you have a waveform that it starts out as a square wave down here in the lower register, which helps it kind of cut through when you have this tiny speaker that really can't actually play bass notes. And then as you move up, it changes to sawtooth, square wave, or triangle wave, and then up to a sine wave at the top register. So it kind of softens out the waveform as you play higher notes. Then we also have square wave, and in square wave mode, you can actually adjust the pulse width using modulation. So you can do that, which is a lot of fun. And then we also have saw wave. We have triangle. So if you try playing down low, can't really hear much unless you're actually plugging in your headphones, which then you can actually hear that. We also have sine wave and strings, which is a single cycle of a string waveform, but it can make a nicer sound in some cases. Let's see, I'll go ahead and set it to this. Yeah. So let's go ahead and set that back to mono and get to clarinet's another waveform. And that's all the sounds we have in there currently. All right, the other things down here are Roland MT32 and General MIDI. These send out commands to a connected MIDI controller. So if you have a MIDI keyboard that uses any of these standards, you know, it might have sound banks in it, you can select the sound banks directly from this menu, and it will send a command to your MIDI device to select this sound bank. And then we have both the Roland MT32 standard and General MIDI standards loaded in here. So you connect it to a MIDI device that can have the sounds changed by command. You can control that directly from here. It doesn't actually put any sounds on this device. It just sends a command to load up that sound on your MIDI device. So anyway, let's go ahead and go back. That is all the built-in synth options. Next thing is transpose. You want to play up higher. It keeps all the colors the same, but transposes it up or down the amount that you select here. Really easy. Like if you wanted to, it's almost like a capo on a guitar, but right here on your synth. All right. Now we can go into advanced a little bit, and in here you'll see the current firmware version, the hardware that you're using. So this is 1.2. You can see the MPE bend range. You know what? I'll have to go explain that in a little bit. Invert encoder. If your encoder is turning the wrong direction, you check that off or uncheck it, and it will make it go the right way. So this way is going backwards. This way is going the right way. Some of them are a little bit off depending on what batch it was made in, and so we're going to make it so that this saves, so that way you don't have to do it more than once. But I had a couple of beta units that ended up with the encoder turning the wrong way unless you have that switched. The fixed color thing is just a color correction curve we applied. The colors don't look great when it's off, so that's just for experimentation. Color by key changes whether it's whether the color changes when you move what scale you have highlighted. Yeah, it's like it's currently set to the key of C, so C is red. If I set that to no, then it will just be all based off of the same note. So when I go to scales and select D, it doesn't actually move any of this stuff. It does, however, highlight the notes correctly according to the E flat scale or whatever scale you have selected. It just doesn't move the red from there. I like to have it the way where the red is your root note. So that one is by default yes. On color by key, your alt wheel, I actually don't know what that is, so I'm going to skip it. Pitch bend is springy. So springy means it returns to center when you let go. Watch, it's up here. It returned to center when I let go. If you set it to sticky, then it will stay up until you press down. Same with the mod wheel. The mod wheel I also made springy. So if you want that to stick, you go ahead and set it to sticky, and the mod wheel will stick to whichever value you leave it at until you pull it back down to default. So I like to keep them on springy, but you can change that if you'd like. Update firmware is the final option here, and when you select this, the HexBoard shows up as a flash drive on your computer. You can drag a .uf2 file onto the HexBoard and it will update. Wow. So click that. Now I go to my computer and I can drag the file onto there. So let's go ahead and restart this thing so that it's out of the firmware flashing mode. And let's get into microtonal stuff. This is one of the really fun things you can do on here that you can't do on most any controller out there. So let's go ahead and unmute my laptop so we can start playing sounds. So let's go ahead and look at the laptop, and currently it's set to 12 EDO, which is your normal tuning. So if you're like, what is all this? 12 is normal. I might actually label that normal. There you go. Now, if you really wanted to, you could set this to 17, which splits the octave into 17 different notes. Let's go ahead and do that. Uh-oh. This isn't quite working. What do we need to do? Well, I will show you. In Logic, you need to go in here. And a lot of Logic's default synths have a thing that you can open up down here, and you can turn on MIDI mono mode. And you set it to on, common bass channel 1, and the bend range set to 48 semitones. Now, if you play now, and now you have all 17 notes unlocked. Now you can select a different tuning, go right to 31, boom. Now you have 31 notes. And you can start to play around with all these different alternate tunings. There's a lot more theory to this that I can't well explain, but you can look into Zen harmonic things or microtonal things, and you'll start to find results that will teach you a little bit about this. I think there's also a Discord, the Zen Harmonic Alliance Discord. If you're really interested, you really want to dive in deep into this, they have a lot of people there who are really nerdy about this stuff, who know what they're talking about. So, also a lot of people who don't, but hey, that's the internet. Let's go, woo! All right. So anyway, that's how you get it to work in Logic. In other programs like in Ableton, you might have to go into your settings and enable MPE for this device, and then make sure your synth is MPE capable. Another thing it's possible in is not just Logic's default synths, but also in Serum. So I'll load up Serum. And again, your DAW does need to be compatible with MPE for this to work. But you go into Global, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, so currently it's not working. So I do need to have the things set correctly. Okay, MPE enabled by default. That's not it either. I still need, oh, wait. I believe, yes, here we go. So MPE enabled. You check that off. MPE bend range 48. And now, I think. And now you can get that full thing in Serum. You can, of course, do all the good, fun Serum stuff and make it sound more Serum-y. But I don't have the time to make a fun patch right now. But you can do it in Serum like that. There are all manner of other ways to load this up and get it working. But say you don't have a DAW that is compatible with MPE and you just want to make sounds and get it to work on your computer for free. You can go ahead and get Surge XT. Surge XT is a free open source synthesizer that you can get, and you can use it with the HexBoard straight out the gate. So you can actually go in here, and first thing you'll need to do is go to your options and turn on RP2040. And this is not loaded as a plugin. This is a standalone program that I have. You can get it as a plugin, but if your DAW is not compatible, this is the way to get it working. You just use the standalone Surge XT. You check off RP2040 to make sure that the HexBoard is connected, have all your audio settings correct there. And then we can start playing around with some of these sounds. So when I'm in 12EDO, it turns off the MPE button, see, automatically ticked off. You set it to something else, let's say 24. Boom, MPE clicks on for you, and you can play. And so you can load up all sorts of different sounds in here. They have tons of patches and a quite deep synthesis engine that you can really dive into. But yeah, it works just like that. You don't really have to play around with things. It clicks on for you. If it doesn't automatically turn on for you though, there are ways you can activate that. You can go to this button and make sure MPE is checked on. Trying to think if there was anything else that you needed to do there. Yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, make sure MPE is turned on. If you go to the menu, you can go to MPE settings, make sure it's set to 48 semitones. Now, another thing that you can do if you really want to is you can go into the advanced settings and you can set MPE bendran, which yeah, I need to label that a little better. Set it to something lower. So 48 is default for a lot of MPE devices. But if you want more resolution, you want to set this lower. And so if you set it to 2, in theory, it should be able to set it in here. So now that I've set it to 2 on the HexBoard, it currently says 48 on here. So whatever, we'll just have to go in and set it ourselves. So let's see, MPE, pitch bend range, click on it and set it to 2, hit OK. Now we have that again, but with a higher resolution available, so you can get really precise values out of this. Great for when you're trying to tune specifically for beat frequencies and things like that. That again, I am not well equipped to explain it all or understand it all myself. But there you go. That is how you do MPE stuff on the HexBoard. That is how you do everything on the HexBoard that I can currently explain now. There are other features in the works. Right now we're working on a save mode where any setting that you pick out saves as soon as you've selected it. So when you unplug the HexBoard, you plug it back in, everything is loaded to what you had last time. That's a feature that's in our beta. It works. That's coming soon. There's a couple other things that we're working on as well, but that's the main things. I hope you enjoy your HexBoard. Thank you for taking the time to understand it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below. And, you know, maybe when the next firmware update comes out, I'll make a even better tutorial here. Anyway, thanks. Bye.